Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to be continuing the topic of macromolecules, and today I'm going to be focusing on lipids, also known as fats. Okay, let's get started. So we all know that oil and water do not mix. So therefore lipids are considered insoluble in water. They will not dissolve in water. And there are four main types of lipids, and they are triglycerides, phospholipids, steroids, and isosinoids. On the topic of triglycerides, they are the most plentiful lipids in the body, which is also why we measure them, and they give us an idea of how much fat are in the body. And fats, we use the term fats when they're solid, and we use the term oils when they're liquid. And the monomer is going to be fatty acids and glycerol. So if you remember the topic of carbohydrates when we did the macromolecules, carbohydrates, the monomer for carbohydrates is monosaccharides. So, when we get to proteins and when we get to nucleic acid, we're going to find out that the product, when we're talking about monomers, will be one product. But triglyceride is an exception. The monomer here, we're going to end up with two products, which is fatty acid and glycerol, not either or, but fatty acid plus glycerol. Okay, so what's the main function of triglycerides? For energy storage? Carbohydrates provide immediate source of energy, but triglycerides is going to store energy. And insulation. So here I have an example of a skin cell, and you can see on this layer you're going to see fat, and this is what it's supposed to look like. We have fat in our skin for insulation. We have fat around our organs, like around the heart, not inside the heart, around the heart, on the kidneys, and they're supposed to be there for insulation and protection also. So those fat, in case you're jostling, especially in the abdomen, there's a lot of organs in the abdomen. You're jostling, you're running a marathon. You don't want a situation where all your organs are hitting each other. So fat will also provide a source of, or a means of, physical protection. So on to phospholipids. They're the most important. Why? Because the plasma membrane, your cell membrane, is actually made up of phospholipid bilayer. So they have both polar and nonpolar parts, which makes them soluble in both water and fats. Someone might be like, wait, you just said that they're insoluble in water. So the head portion, which is going to be the part facing water, the outside of the cell, has a liquid component to it, and the inside also has water portion. So the polar head, which is hydrophilic, water loving, think of Philadelphia, city of brotherly love, is going to be facing the watery part, because we don't want a situation where they're being repelled, right? And then the tails are going to be non-polar. The tails are going to be hidden, and they are hydrophobic. This is one of the reasons why they're hidden. They are hydrophobic, and they do not like water. All right. Think of a phobia. Phobia means that, someone has a fear of something. On to fatty acids. So fatty acids, we have different types. We have two main types: saturated fatty acid and unsaturated. So what's the difference between saturated fatty acid and unsaturated fatty acid? So the difference is that saturated has single covalent bond. So the molecules are lined up in a linear fashion, and they're packed closely together. And so these are going to be solid at room temperature. I'm going to be giving you examples in the next slide. And with unsaturated, they're going to have double bonds, which you see right here. And as a result of that double bond, you can see a kink right here. So it causes a sharp bend. There's a kink in fatty acids. So this is why they cannot pack so closely together, and therefore they are going to be liquid at room temperature. The other types of unsaturated fatty acid would be trans fat and omega-3 fatty acid. All right, so let me go on to acid. So the saturated fatty acid, these are going to be solid at room temperature. And this is an example of that would be butter. all right, butter, even though you're melting it to cook, but they are solid in room temperature, and also animal fat. So this is also one of the reasons why, in terms of, being healthy and so on, even though you melted the butter while baking and so on, but when they get to your body, they can return to their solid state. So this brings the controversy of coconut oil, because coconut oil is usually going to be solid in room temperature. And so this is the controversy that, well, when you eat coconut oil, when it gets in your body, it can turn back into solid. All right, so the next, fatty acid. We tend to see this in plant oils. I'm putting examples here like olive oil. This is one of the reasons why they say olive oil is essential. Tea tree oil, corn oil, walnut oil, pumpkin oil. All these are great, because they will still remain liquid in room temperature. So I kind of put here the coconut butter, which, some people still, the word is still out on if it's healthy or not. So the trans fat, this is an artificial oil. All right. I put in the previous slide that's modified. It's artificial. This is one of the reasons why fast food tastes so good. You try to, you have the recipe, you try it at home, and then you're like, it still doesn't taste so, it doesn't taste like the fast food I buy. Yeah, because they use trans fat, which is artificial oil, for your fries, for your chicken, for baking, the cookies. Not the best, because this can actually cause heart disease. It can clog the arteries in your heart. We're going to be talking about that when we get to the cardiovascular portion. Omega3 fatty acid, which is another component of the unsaturated fatty acid. This is considered the healthy fat. All right, this is a healthy fat. The trans fat, not healthy. This is healthy, and where can you find them? You can find them in, fish. So this is the fish oil, seafood oil that is really seen. I kind of put here tofu. Tofu is, even though it's high in protein, I'm still going to talk about tofu when we get to protein, but it does have good fat also. So steroids. All right, steroids. So steroids are very also part of lipids. They're very, very important. A lot of people don't know this, but they are precursor for sex hormones like testosterone and estrogen, and bile salts, some vitamins, all right, and corticosteroids. Hydrocortisone. Someone might say, wait, don't I buy that from the store? Yes, correct. Your body makes its own hydrocortisone. You also secrete a hormone called cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and also used to decrease inflammation. Right here, this joint is inflamed. This decreases inflammation, and cholesterol is considered to be the most important thing. So cholesterol is also part of the cell membrane. They work with not as much as phospholipid, but it is a part of cell membrane. It can be made in the liver, but most of the time you do have to ingest it in your diet. And like I said, it's a starting material for sex hormones like estrogen, progesterone. So let's say a woman has like really low cholesterol count, low fat content, and some women might be like, wait, that's great, that's what I've always wanted. However, it could also, if you have too little cholesterol, there's not going to be enough to start your estrogen production. And last but not least is going to be the isosinoids. So these are chemical messengers that coordinate local activities of the cell. Think leukotrienes. These are found in the immune system. I'm going to be talking about them when we get to the immune system. And that's going to be really it for, the macromolecules, the lipid portion of macromolecules. All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.